Hello, welcome to another video. Thanks for clicking on the link. What I want to talk about today really is official narratives again. It's this area of Scarborough. It's in the South Bay. Anywhere in the South Bay that you're at, you can see this blue bridge and the Grand Hotel. I first became interested, really. That's how it is now. I'll get on to there in a sec. This is how it was early Victorian times. It was before the Grand Hotel. As you can see, that tower there for reference. This is what it's like now. This here, you draw a line in front of there, right up to the house, along the road. All this area is now a massive underground car park, but it's not what it used to be. Press on. This is the picture I took myself. I took the picture, as I quite often do with pictures, and for no particular reason, only the fact I'll look over them again one day and, might find something interesting. And what interested me about this picture was this building here, the museum building. I wanted to research that because I didn't believe the official narrative, and how this subject really just mushrooms out into all sorts of different things. This next picture I'll show you just totally blew my head off, because this building here that I was interested in, suddenly the interest went out the window, and that's this building, this picture here. You can clearly see the tower here. I'll reference that. I call it sandstone building. I'll show you a few pictures that may not show you any landmark as such, but I'll reference where these two buildings are. But when I saw this, it just really blew me away. This is from the 67, I think, just before it was all demolished. And after seeing this, my attention hasn't come back for that building. Yeah, I'm not really that interested at the moment. But there's the house. It's a beautiful house, and it's referenced in so many pictures. This is what's responsible for these big open spaces. As you can see, these are roofs of houses, the very, very tops of houses. And you can see over that side, that archway, I'll show you in a later picture when all this was demolished. But as you can see, it's not only underground here, it's also going off that way as well. Now, this is a purpose-built, as we're told, Victorian aquarium, underground aquarium. Now, this place is massive, it's huge. Apart from basically like the sea life centres, I think, of today, it was basically one of them, but underground. Now, the official narrative is it was built in Victorian times. 1877 is when it opened. I'm showing you this because this is where things start to fall apart, really. You can see a museum at the top here. See sandstone house. This, it's a 2¼ acre site, this underground site that was built. I might be out by, 10 or 20 foot either way. But this is roughly the size of this Victorian underground complex that was built. Now, as I'll show you in pictures as we go along, this complex was pretty tall, pretty high. So what you're going to have to do is, before you can build anything, you're going to have to dig out all that. Now, it's after the bridge was put in, so you'd be undermining the foundations of the bridge, I was thinking. But in mid-Victorian times, to dig out that amount and have to go down maybe 80 foot, maybe even more, to start on the foundations of the building that you plan to build. And it's not only that, once the building has been built, they then bury it again. and it makes no sense whatsoever at all. But this gives you the size of this underground aquarium, where that's actually where the aquarium office used to be. Right, just after, not long after the aquarium, it wasn't doing too well, so it was bought out. It was bought out by the bloke that owns the Winter Gardens at Blackpool, and he turned it more into a leisure complex as opposed to just an underground aquarium. And I'll give you some idea of the size and what was down there. You know, you've got Monkey House, Avery's, Sea and Alligator Ponds, swimming pools, theatres, skating rinks, mini roller coaster, concert hall, reading rooms, and the largest fish tank in the world, measuring 36 foot square. So this is a massive complex. This is the top of part of what's being buried. Notice the metalwork there as well. This is the Blue Bridge. So what would have had to done, if you stick with the official narrative, is all this would have had to have been dug out. You know, thousands upon thousands of tons of mud would have had to have been dug out at a time whereas all you had was horses and carts, picks and shovels. You know, God knows how long it would have taken, but that's what we're expected to believe. This is another picture where it was the aquarium, and it shows you the size really. These are the tops of houses, these. They've supposedly filled part of it in, and a tramway over the top of it. You've got the very, very tops of buildings there, but I'll stick on this picture for a second because before they decided to dig all this out, so to say, there was a watercourse that used to come straight down here. It was a beck. Now there's a lot of hill area around here that would have all drained into this beck. So before they've undertook this bloody big engineering project, they would have first of all had to get rid of that water supply, rather divert it somewhere, or whether it runs even deeper than these. And all, you know, this road here, all from up the town, would have come down from the hills on this side of the valley. It would have come down, and you know, water straight down the middle. Now I know a couple of coastal towns a bit closer to home whereby they do have these type of stream channels that for 10 months of the year they're dry, but during the winter months they become like raging rivers. They really do. So before this was undertaken, they had to get rid of that water, which I can't find anything at all in the history books about that whatsoever. This is just a view in Victorian times. Slightly different angle, but as you can clearly see, all the tops of these buildings right the way along here. Right the way along. And you have all this side that's open as well. Hey up, my machine's playing up. Yeah, that's just another one. But what struck me with this picture, I've already done a two-part, one on the Grand, but if you have a look at the antenna on top of the Grand there. But there again, this is another picture. You can see all this down here, the roofs of these houses. It's no secret. It's just part of the feature of the town. That's just looking at it from another angle, really. But you've still got the roofs of your buildings here. The actual tower that I keep talking about, that's just here. Excuse me. That's just another picture. The tramway's already been put down, and it's looking up the valley, really. That's where the water would have came from. Lovely picture in Victorian times. All the tops of the buildings showing. That's just a picture of the painting I've just shown you. And that's just a coloured in version, really. Nothing special. Just the metalwork on top of the ground. But as you can see, these walls stop people falling down, however deep it is. It's just another postcard. And there again, just another picture of this looking from the sea area. You've got your roofs here. This is the water direction it would have come. You're also in bad weather, you have your water coming from this direction, you have water coming from that direction. So if there's been a mud event, you know, you're at the bottom of the hill here. It's where it's going to be deepest. Right, inside we go. These are just a few pictures of inside the building. I'll whiz through them so you can see the type of structure we're talking about. Now this is all subterranean levels. This is all below the street. That gives you some idea of the immense size of the place. Now all this is buried, was buried. The direction the water would have come in, like I mentioned on previous pictures, would have come in this direction. This is basically looking from the sea here, right back up the valley. So it was an immense place, and you look at the height of him, and look at the height of the vaulted ceilings, and then you've got mud on top of that, so you build your tramways. Doesn't make much sense to me. For a brand new purpose-built building, which is what it was supposed to be. So now it's the impression of the same. I mean, they almost glow in the previous picture. You know, these stars here. There's another one down the bottom there as well, I've just noticed. But, you know, star there, pyramids there. These are actual photos by the looks of what it was like inside. It was really, you know, a classy place. I mean, goodness knows what that is up the top here. No idea who that fella is, but display cases of some sort. But as you can see, it's a very high building, and to build a building of that splendour and then bury it again doesn't make sense at all. This gives you some idea of how deep it is. The tramway above, early 1900s, it collapsed. The tram's gone plummeting down through it into the levels below. But if I can just blow this up a bit, not only it's quite a depth down, but these actually look like the exterior of buildings to me. Now, if this is an underground complex, purpose built, why would you have exterior walls of buildings like that? And if you look over this side, that almost looks like a church window. So I'm pretty undecided with that picture. I mean, it's an official picture, it's where the tram went through. And that does actually look, I know it's took a nosedive, but it looks as if it's breaking through the floor there as well. Or it just might be the shadow, I don't really know. Right, moving on. This is basically the construction of the tramway. The one that's just collapsed, I've just shown you. And as you can see there, you have the roofs of your houses. One of the other things I was really looking at, or trying to find, was the construction of this complex. And this is the only thing that's come close that I've found. You know, but there's brickwork there. You know, the building, they're digging themselves out the mud. I really don't know on that one. The jury's out, but if they were digging the hole for this complex, how long would it have taken? Using horses and carts? There's some sort of rail tracks, but I mean, at the depth they would have needed to go over 2.25 acres, didn't really make much sense to me. But might make sense to you, so, you know, drop us a note. This is the end. 1967, the whole place was demolished, So they say it was all demolished. The pictures are very scarce of it. There's only two I could find. That was this one and this one, which is the telling one, really. I mean, that's the sandstone house that I do reference. But I'll just blow it up a little bit. I mean, not only the depth of it, these arches, but they've gone up to that level, and that looks like an inspection hall or a doorway that they've gone through to that level. You know, behind there, you have your double levels over here. You know, it's just an awesome picture, really, but it's such a sad picture to think that all that's gone. And these are your columns for, you know, what's there is an underground car park. But all these archways, I would think, are still there. They've only took the demolition back as far as there. Now, what's on the other side of them arches is anybody's guess. You know, is there as much, you know, going up that way underground? No idea. This is what it's like today. There's your house and there's your museum. This is your underground car park. There's your entrance to your underground car park. The other end near the sea, this is a bit of a raised area. It's a pedestrian way to get you from one side down onto the beach, really, without having to encounter the traffic. It's just another view of it, and that's down inside it. But I've got to ask the question, you know, this is road level, basically. This is actually built up, sloped up. But there must still be a good 40, 50 foot below there. Now, is that filled in now? Is it just left open? You know, the infrastructure's still down there. You know, heaven knows. Got no idea. Right, this next picture. Now, this image it came up trumps for me on the Grand Hotel. Because as we mentioned on the Grand Hotel, these buildings are sat in the footprint of something else. Now, the blue bridge we've got here. Now, I'd like your thoughts on this. Is these areas that are fenced off? See the curve around there? Are they the same area underground that I've been showing you? Because if it is, this image was at least 15 to 20 years before this complex was built down here. So I'm really undecided about this picture. If that is actually the tops of buildings down there, this structure was here long before the official narrative. I mean, I don't believe the official narrative anyway. To finish off with, last year I was at Scarborough. All this was nice sandy beach. I went along this year. There's all this mud. I went along 10 days after I took this picture and it's all covered up again. But this, the stream that I mentioned that must have been piped off years ago, this is where it would have drained out onto. Now, the real strange thing about all this mud, there's quite a lot of building material in it, really big sort of cut blocks. But what I've never found on North East Beach, I have quite a bit of experience in medieval pottery, with a project I've worked on in the past. And all this area, I've never found on beaches before, was scattered with early medieval pottery. I'd even go as far as to say it was Tees Valley ware, and it was actually made around between 1150 to 1200. That's going by the timelines I've been taught. But the other real strange thing is, further along the coast, a bit further up where I live, a place called Redcar. Last year, after the winter storms, it whipped all the sand off. And I'll see if I can get a few pictures up. Carry on talking while I'm looking. The winter storms, it whipped all the sand off. And this is what it left. A sunken forest. Now the official narrative is it's just been rediscovered or re-unearthed after left over from the Ice Age, basically. 7,000 years old. And apart from that, I never heard no more about it. I don't go with the official narrative on this. I really don't. I have a bad gut feeling about it. This timber, I don't believe, like we're told, that it's existed down there for 7,000 years. Now, my son went to see this site long before I did. One of the first things he commented on was everything's in mud. And the tree limbs and the tree branches and the trunks are all firmly set in thick, gooey mud. Now, I do know that this town, Redcar, has got mud flood evidence. How much evidence, I don't know. I haven't really looked around. But it's strange, this one, because I actually believe, and it was before the mud flood, came along, that this is only a couple of 100 years old, this forest. See, I would have thought with a site like this, you would have had every university descending on the place, carbon dating the place, basically, to get to the bottom of it. But apart from the fact it was unearthed, and we've got to stick with the official story that it's 7,000 year old, I don't buy it. And I've actually got a sample of wood from there in my home. My son brought it back. And so anybody that can carbon date things out and put me onto somebody, just to say how old this wood is, because I think it's more like 200 to 300 year old. But they're trying to say that it's 7,000 year old. And I'm not buying it. So that's about it for this video. I've just, hopefully put a few thoughts into people's minds, and don't always believe the official narrative, because the official narrative with this story is nonsensical. To have a massive area like that you've got to dig out 80 or 90 foot before you can even start building, and then once you've built such a wonderful structure, you fill it all in again, cover it over. I don't believe that for 1 minute. But thanks for watching, and please leave any comments what your thoughts are on this. Bye for now.